You're listening to the UAE's #1 talk radio station.
This is The Agenda with Georgia Tolley
On Dubai Eye 103.8.
Yes, this is your Agenda programme. Georgia Tolley here, keeping you company all the way through until 1 p.m. with everything you need to know about what is going on in the UAE at the moment. Obviously, we're getting those regular news updates. Huge thanks to Serena there for keeping us up to speed with everything that happened overnight and a few things that happened this morning. And of course, with this continuing conflict in the region and the heightened security measures across the UAE, you've got companies having to think really carefully about how they're supporting their staff. For large employers in particular, communication, reassurance, and of course safety are even more critical. And lots of organisations are kind of checking in with their employees more regularly. They're having to review their working arrangements. And I guess there's just that sort of human touch element there of trying to make sure people feel informed and protected. There's some businesses that literally have thousands of workers across lots of different sectors. So that can be a significant operational challenge. But just how challenging is it? Okay, how do companies balance that all-important business continuity with employee well-being in an ever-changing situation? Well, joining us now to give us a little bit of an insight behind the scenes is David Stockton. He is Group CEO of Dulsco Group. They employ around 25,000 people across the UAE. And David joins me on the line now. Morning, David. Okay, in times of crisis like the one that we're currently seeing across the region and here in the UAE, what are those, I guess, very first steps that you take as a company to kind of support and protect your workforce?
Good morning, Georgia. Firstly, thanks for inviting us on. Look, communication is absolutely key, and we stood up our crisis group immediately as the first action and activities began. Effective communication between ourselves is absolutely critical. Obviously, getting that communication from obviously our workforce, but also out to our workforce as well. And obviously, empathy is really key because there's a lot of concern, there's a lot of fear, certainly in the initial days. And we stood up 3 times on day one, 9 a.m., 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. And that was really a great way of understanding what was happening on the ground because it was very, very fluid.
You guys have 25,000 staff. A lot of them are sort of full-time workers for you, but you kind of hire them out to other places, say restaurants or hotels, at times when they need to sort of quickly expand their workforce, but not for a long period of time. In fact, the last time we spoke to you guys was just ahead of Ramadan, and we were talking about how people are staffing up for the iftars. How that means that all of your workforce are all over the place. So how are you physically staying in touch with them? You know, how are you reassuring them?
So look, great question. I think there's a diverse workforce across what we have core customers that we've been working with for many, many years, and we've got very much flexible customers, but as you say, on demand. The communication is multifaceted. We've got obviously WhatsApp group, a common tool that everybody uses across the Middle East, and especially in the UAE. We've really put a lot of communication effort into videos, which we put out onto various groups right across our workforce. We've done multi-language posters, multi-language videos, but the most important thing is the human element of it. And so everybody, myself included, is out and about in the field, both in our accommodation sites, at some of our custom premises, because we want to reassure the safety. Our safety is built on 3 simple pillars. If the UAE government have deemed it safe to be able to go out, to attend various places of work, if our customers are feeling the same, and most importantly, if our HSE teams, our own HSE teams, see that it is safe to be able to operate. And communicating that across our business to our workforce, to our staff, and to our customers is critical.
What kind of concerns are your employees telling you they have? And how do you then respond to those? Because I imagine one of the biggest concern is safety, and it is uncertain. You know, I've got my kids turning to me and saying, you know, what's going to happen next? And there is a little bit of a wait and see situation at the moment.
Absolutely right. And look, it is absolutely clear that we don't know. We don't have all the answers, but what we do know is we will not put people in harm's way. we make references to risk that we take every single day when we get in a car, we cross the road, we go into play in a field or on a park. That's inherent risk. But obviously at times at the moment, it becomes more challenging. What we are seeing, is the short term and the long term. The short term is the here and now. What's happening on a daily basis? Will I be required tomorrow? Are our customers okay? Do they want to keep having the same roles that they're having today? But the longer term is, what does this mean for the long term? And the honest answer is that we're continuing to have business as usual as our customers operate and as we operate. We don't know, we don't have a crystal ball, but we all hope that there is a navigation through all of this and things return. What we do know is that we went through similar exercises with the pandemic. And we've got a lot of history of dealing with agility and flexibility for both our employees and for our customers.
Let's talk about both those short-term and long-term options again, because of course, from a business perspective, events like this, it's more than event, isn't it? Situations like this do tend to change staffing demands from your clients. Are you seeing people asking for fewer workers in some sectors, and then are others asking for more support?
Yeah, it's really split. Our environmental vertical is as strange as it sounds, it's a normal working environment, albeit with obviously navigation of alerts and taking shelter. But environment, we continue as is. We've seen some of our industrial teams being ramped up because there's more activities that we're having to take part in. In our workforce solutions, some of the key industries such as aviation, and the ports, obviously that's different, but every day we're seeing growth back towards normality. In other areas, it is business as usual. So it's a real flexible situation we're in. And our oil and gas space, we're seeing some people being demobilized, but equally in other parts of the world, we're seeing them remobilized as other areas of the world are ramping up productions.
Wow, goodness me. It gives me a sense there of, what you're having to juggle. Periods of change for you guys must have, a serious sort of impact. How important is leadership in moments like this? Not just your role as communicators, but also, the emotional welfare support that you guys can provide.
Yeah, look, this is where leadership really comes into its own. And, what we're seeing, I'm delighted to see some people that really are stepping up to the plate right across our organization. But visibility, communication is absolutely key. Certainly, I think what we're seeing going forward is people wanting to go the extra mile. But equally, we've got to have that great deal of empathy of making sure that we're not overcommitting ourselves to trying to do too much. It's also some self-recognition of how we're feeling. On the face of it, we could be like a serene swan, and underneath our legs are moving at 100 miles an hour. So we've engaged with our welfare teams, we've engaged with our insurers. We've had some real beautiful reach outs from people we've worked with historically in team development and well-being and empathy to support us and support our workforce, FOC to help everybody that is going through this, because everybody's dealing it in very, very different ways.
You guys have, as I've mentioned a couple of times now, mainly because I find the number so staggering. I can't imagine managing, anyone, let alone 25,000 people. How about SMEs, other sort of smaller businesses out there who maybe don't have a dedicated HR person in their team? As someone who has to manage so many people, do you have any advice for those of us who are out there trying to juggle this situation, but just on a smaller scale?
Yeah, look, I can't over egg the need to talk to people. That small touch point, just reaching out, asking how people are, how people's families are, any face-to-face engagement, even a telephone call to somebody perhaps you've not picked up the line to previously. But literally, this is a time when you've got a bit more thinking, creative time to be able to talk to people more about how they're feeling rather than the transaction that we're normally going through. Because we're all extremely busy, but this gives a real personal insight into how people are feeling. And I would really encourage to get visible in operations where you can, check in randomly, frequently and often, and really mean it when you do it.
Amazing stuff. I have to say, David, keep on the good work. It sounds like it hasn't been an easy time for you, like it hasn't been an easy time for lots of us, but really great to have you join us on the agenda. Thank you so much for taking the time. David Stockton there, Group CEO of Dulsco Group, speaking here on the agenda programme on Dubai Eye Radio. Okay, let us turn our attention back to the ARN News Centre. They're so important at the moment. Let's get the headlines.
Your ARN News.
I'm Serena Kelly. The UAE has welcomed the adoption of the UN Security Resolution, which strongly condemns Iran's attacks and calls for an immediate halt. The International Energy Agency